And I would like to actually prompt before you even do that. So Gary runs a consulting business called sharperprocess.com. And I was looking at the website, and the motto you have on there, like the headline is run your business on purpose, which I love. Could you break down what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, it means coming together with a plan, a focused plan, a vision plan that that's proactive and not reactive. It's to being deliberate in your actions, right? And we either have one or two choices. We can either do things on purpose, or we can be very reactive to everything. And I run my business and coach others to run the business with a plan. So that's essentially what I mean. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So starting about building an REI business and what that means. So a little bit about who I am. This is my family. And Susan Harper is my wife. She's actually a majority owner of Sharper Business Solutions. And if you haven't figured it out, if you take the USAN out and move it over, that's Sharper. And that's how the name came about. So Susan Harper, Sharper Business Solutions. I looked at her email one day. I'm like, hey, your name spells Sharper. That's awesome. And then years later, when we started this, it was her idea, to be honest with you. I retired from real estate, felt very comfortable, sitting at home and enjoying life a little bit. And she said, and had a little bit of a reminder to me to help other people. And I won't go into the story too deep, but I almost passed away in 2011. And I was an executive in corporate America and had to walk away from that job to tend to my health. I almost passed away from a disease called Lyme's disease. And it took me back to almost like a 5-year-old mental state, and very, very, very immature mindset because of the infection. And my wife helped me through that time, and made a promise that if I got better, that I would help other people, right? And so that promise was to my wife and God, and that's why I do what I do today. And so Susan made that reminder to me, and that's why we started Sharper. That's my son Jacob there in the middle, and he's actually in college now, studying girls. And
we can't see that slide. I see I see the whole PowerPoint screen, but not the individual slide. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah,
Might have to change the share setting on.
Yeah, sorry about that. You know
It's
what?
all good.
You're probably right. I just got a new computer, and I think some of these settings need to be adjusted here. So let me do that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, let's see here. How about now? Can you see it now?
No, if you close the screen share real quick and then start it up, it'll give you the option of what window you want to share.
Sure. Let me try that again.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that. Is that better?
It says started sharing screen. Should be loading. It just says has started screen sharing. Hit slideshow in the PowerPoint, Andrew said.
Yeah, that's there. What in the world?
Yeah, do me a favor and just try that again. We'll get back to it.
All right.
Didn't realize you went through all that though, Gary. That's a big part of your story. When did you have the disease?
You know what? I had in 2011.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Are you seeing anything?
Do you guys see anything? I'm not. It just says black screen that says Gary Harper has started screen sharing for some reason.
Really weird. I never have this problem.
Yeah, it's probably a Zoom issue. If you would like to send me the slides, I'll try to put them up on my end, and you can just talk through them on your end for now.
Okay, let me try one more thing here, and then that's what we'll do.
Okay. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. This is
please. Thank you, guys. I do apologize.
Systems are only as good as the technology that backs them.
Yeah, and I never have that problem. So
There we
it's
go.
really all right. Can you see it now?
Yep, I can see your screen, and yeah.
How about now? Full screen?
Yep. All right, we're
All
in.
right. Wow, it's really weird. I didn't do anything but do it again. So it didn't change anything. So there, you see Jake there in the middle now?
Yeah.
All right, so there's my son Jake. Like I said, he's studying girls in college. My daughter's actually in college as well. I know I get that laugh, but my daughter's actually in college as well. She's going to be graduating with her nursing degree here on May 16th of this year. So very proud of both these young kids. My son is actually an owner of one of our businesses, Sharper Marketing. He's 70% owner, and he got Story Brand certified, and he helps a lot of real estate investors story brand their business. So
That's
he's
cool.
he loves marketing. It's really neat. So this is my why. I always tell people I give of my life to honor God, and that's the areas of my labor, my influence, my finances, and my experience. Um, Again, my why is my family. I love my kids. I miss them. They're out. They don't live at home anymore, which is why Susan and I travel so much, because it allows us to enjoy the different parts of the country.
Mm.
And so Jacob and Anne Marie are in college and getting on with their lives at this point. So what we do, we have an ecosystem here. We have obviously my son's company, the Story Brand. We have a Sharper Events, which includes our circle, and we have a couple other events in there as well, our couples retreat. Our consulting is what we're kind of known for. We're also Predictive Index certified partners, and then my wife has an online COO training. If you want to learn how to be a COO of your business
Mm.
or an integrator, she has that as well. Some of the training resources we have is Traction, we're an EOS implementers, Predictive Index, Six Sigma. I got a Six Sigma background and Green Belt certified there. Disc training, obviously John Maxwell certification as well. I love John Maxwell, and I'm a coach or trainer and speaker with that organization. I don't know how many of you heard of Think Realty, but Think Realty is an online platform that offers free content through their web-based services and also their expos. And I'm a Think Realty expert and resident expert, and provide a lot of free content there. And then we've helped. This slides actually needs to be updated. I texted my wife right before we got started. I'm like, hey, just give me an idea, like how many people we worked with now. And so we've worked with 178 now. So this is a little bit old, but worked with 178 teams in real estate around the country, and some of the top real estate investors, honestly, in the business. So we enjoy doing what we do. Why we do it is to help other people. And one of the reasons we do that is we find that a lot of people's businesses get stuck. They have problems solving problems in their business. They have the wrong people. We find a lot of people are working more in the business than on it. We find that people's businesses have become very complex and the communication has deteriorated. We find that people hit ceilings. They hit a ceiling personally, departmentally. They hit a ceilings as a company. And most of the time, it's hilarious to me because when somebody hits a ceiling, they hit the ceiling in multiple different areas of their life. And if they hit it in one area, my phone doesn't ring. They hit it in two areas, my phone doesn't ring. It's the third area that triggers that call, right? And so if you're here today on the call and you're struggling just in one area or two areas and you're like, well, it's not too bad, I can handle it. Listen, you will stay stuck longer when you don't ask for help, right? So it's not a matter of when you'll ask for help. It's all right if you ask for help, it's when. And usually it's just that one next problem that comes along that has you asking for help. So obviously, if you're frustrated, if you want help, this is the reason why we are here and why we help people. Moving along here. So in order to grow a successful real estate investor business, we have to focus and learn how to implement the 6 areas of success of business. Those areas are vision, people, processes, issues, data, and communication. And so we have to create focus around each one of these areas. And each one of these areas is those areas I talk about as us hitting the ceiling. Some people hit a ceiling with vision. Some people hit a ceiling with people. And those aren't typically enough for my phone to ring. But as soon as they hit a ceiling with 3 or more of these is typically when we start to hear a phone call or get somebody that walks up to us at an event saying, I need your help. So let's get into this. Let's talk about vision a little bit and what we have to do. And guys, I'm going to try to give you nuggets here today. I'm going to try to give you stuff you can actually go do. And if you'll take notes and work on these things, you'll see the benefits and results of it. And I know Dan does a good job with a lot of this stuff, and you've implemented a lot of the stuff already in your business, Dan, which makes you successful, and which is one of the reasons why you've had success and been able to build a business, right? How would you feel, Dan, with some of these things? Have you seen them implemented in your business, and what would you say is the difference in your business now versus before you had them?
The clear indicator of how well our systems are, or is how is how good my lifestyle is, and
okay.
my state of mind. That's sort of the lagging indicator to how good my business systems are, as well as how much time I'm actually putting into the business. And right now, it's very, very balanced, and I have a very well integrated life, and I'm grateful for that. And I think it's a direct reflection of the work that I put in on this exact topic. So everybody listening, definitely take this stuff seriously, because it is the foundational element. You might have a foundation now, but you got to seal the cracks up so you can keep scaling.
Yeah. And the study was done in the 1960s that showed the way a business grows. And if you're on the call today and you're like, well, I'm not really stuck, I'm not really feeling any of this, well, it'll happen, right? We all hit a ceiling. Even in my business, I'm going to hit a ceiling. And we have to learn how to grow past each one of those ceilings. From the study that was done in the 1960s showed the way a business grows from 0 to 100% of whatever that company's vision is. And it showed that we hit a ceiling at multiple levels all the way to 100%. So they called it evolution and revolution. And revolution is at hitting the ceiling moment. And so how do we push past that? Well, we have to make sure we're simplifying these areas I'm going to talk about today. Make sure that we're delegating that properly to the right people, that we're predicting, we're creating the right vision, that we have the right systems or processes in place, and we have the right structure with the right people. And that's how we grow past hitting a ceiling. And that actually comes straight from the book Traction with Gino Wickman. And he talks about how hitting a ceiling is so important to know how to manage it and come past it. But vision here, how do we do that? Well, first, we got to start with us, right? People buy into the leader, then the vision. And so it's not enough just to have a vision, but we have to make sure that we, as a leader, are creating that vision for people. Big dreams require a strategic plan. And this is a question I have for you guys today is, do you have a clear vision in writing that has been properly communicated to your entire staff and is shared by everyone? And what do we mean by that? We mean that it's not in our head anymore. It's on paper, that we're communicating it verbally to people, and that people buy into it, right? And so we have to have that. And anybody that creates a vision plan and doesn't document it, and doesn't speak it, then you're not utilizing accountability to hold your vision to, or utilizing speaking it to hold your vision accountable. And so when we speak our vision, we create a life for it. We create a birth of it, if you will. And if we don't, then it dies the day we wrote it. So we have to be able to communicate it, and we have to communicate it clearly.
It needs to be a collaborative effort as well, so that your team embodies it in their own why. So I think it's important. It's tempting for leaders to just set the vision and create like the mission statement just for them based on their why. But your whole team has to like be an emotional connection between your vision statement to make it compelling enough for them to actually be motivated by it every single day. So
that's absolutely right, Dan. And without that, you don't have an emotional paycheck, right? And 67% of people rated praise and the emotional paycheck as one of the top motivating factors of why they went to work where they do. So the purpose calls passion, the why, if you will, Simon Sinek. You have to have that connection with those people, and people have to buy into it. They have to be connected because it's an emotional paycheck for them, right? And so having that and creating that is important. I put here, anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And so what does a leader have to do? Well, a leader has to navigate the vision, and navigating the vision requires an understanding of the future, where we're going, which is why it's really important to we listen to a podcast, and why Dan does what he does is to keep everybody having an understanding of where we're going. But it also allows us to have a good interpretation of the past and knowing where we've been. I was in a group this morning, and the question was asked, how many of you guys have been in real estate since 2008? And like very, very small amount of hands went up in the room. And so it's really important for those people who haven't been in real estate for a long period of time that they're around other people that have, so that they get an interpretation of the past and where we've come from. So understand where we come from and understand where we're going helps us to navigate the vision properly. And it's a John Maxwell statement, but he says to navigate for others, you must know the way, show the way, and then go that way, right? We actually need to know it. We have to show it. We have to speak it. And then we have to go. We have to actually make things happen. And having the vision and putting it in your briefcase is not enough in order to get you to that next level. So we have to plan ahead when creating a vision plan. I love this an acronym here, and planning ahead stands for me, predetermine a course of action. We have to lay out our goals.
Oh, we lost Gary. Did this happen to you guys as well? He froze on me. Let me know if you guys can still hear him. Okay. I'll text him real quick. Just when it was getting good, guys, I'm sure he'll tune back in. Yeah, he's broadcasting from a hotel room at a conference in Dallas, so I'm sure it's the hotel Wi-Fi. Hey, Gary. Let me know if you can hear us now, Gary. Yeah, absolutely. Karen says,
hey, I guess I lost you.
Yep.
Man, I don't know where I lost you at. Where did I lose you at?
You were talking you started mentioning the PLAN acronym.
Okay.
And everybody is like eagerly awaiting your description of it because it looks awesome.
Yeah. So, do you see my screen again or no?
Yep. We're back.
All right. Good. Sorry, guys. I'm at a hotel, so I apologize. Internet's not quite what it is in my house. So plan ahead, right? Predetermine a course of action, lay out your goals, adjust your priorities, and then you got to notify people, right? You got to notify the people that are going to help you get to where you're going. And then you have to allow time for them to accept it and buy in, right? Buy into that purpose, that cause, that passion. You have to head into action. One of the things I find a lot of times helping people is they just don't take the next step. You know, the fear slow them down. And so, you know, we have to actually take that step. Now, of course, along the way, you should expect problems. Dan, I've never been in real estate for very long before, you know, I run into some type of problem, you know, and whether it's a closing on a house or, you know, seller backing out or, you know, or buyer wanting to make changes before closing. I mean, we run into those problems. You have to expect them. You can't let them derail you. And then I always tell people fail forward, you know, get up and keep going. Always point yourself to success whenever you're pushing, and then daily review your plan. And that's what I talked about earlier, like having that vision plan, but bringing it out, looking at it daily, speaking it, and letting it live, right? So you have to create this plan to move forward. Now, part of this plan to move forward is having the right vision plan. So having the right vision plan, and that's what I would coach anyone to do on this call, is start with your core values. Again, vision starts with you as a person. So you have to get your core values out of your head and on paper, and you have to define what those are. Your core values are like a magnet system, right? They're either going to attract or repulse people from us, okay? So having the right core values documented will do just that. It'll attract the right people and it'll repulse the wrong people. So understanding what they are, and we go through a core values exercise. There's a lot of different ways to understand your core values. But just think of it this way. I mean, really, there's three types of systems. There's a core value system, a value system, and a virtue system. And a core value system is not an I'm sorry when it's violated, it's I'm done, right? It's a non-negotiable. And so typically I see people have between 3 and 7 core values. Really, it's really about 3 to 5. Usually if it gets more than 5, it's pretty aspirational or accidental even. But understanding what those core values are, making sure that we're aligning with those right people. Understanding
one quick note on core values. Yesterday, I wrote a message to the HQ community about this, that really every business should have 2 core values. These 2 core values, and they can add whatever ones they want. One of them is work the system, which maintains an integrity of operations and having an efficient process and making sure that it's like actually being done in the company. Like there's an enforcement of working the system. instead of just having SOPs that you just file away somewhere. And then the second one, to kind of speak to your core values, is do the right thing, which is very vague, but it kind of covers the basis for everything else that requires like human finesse and empathy. And it can be interpreted. So I kind of came up with that yesterday. Like if you're stuck on what core values, one of them should absolutely be work the system, as you'll soon find out. And then something along the lines of do the right thing. And then whatever other things like integrity or that you want to actually instill in your team. But I just wanted to mention that.
You know, it's funny, after helping 178 teams now, there is a pretty big handful of people out there that don't have integrity, right? And would not put it in their core values. Now, those are the people we should not be doing business with, right?
Right.
So it's absolutely, so if you're out there today and you're like, well, I'm not sure those are my values that Dan's speaking of, well, then you have to know something. He wouldn't put them out there if they weren't core to him.
Yeah, that's true.
So just understand that, because if you're working with him, you're in his community, and you don't have integrity, then he's probably not going to do very well with you, right? Yeah. So, you know, there's a really good book here on core values. Patrick Lencioni is one of my favorite authors, and he has a book called The Ideal Team Player. Me and my wife tend to read about 2 to 3 books a week. We strive for 3 every week. And so you'll hear me reference a lot of books, but Ideal Team Player is a really great book. And he says in that book, the 3 core values he needs and he thinks every business should have, at least in this fable, is hungry, humble, and smart, right? And he says the integrity one's an underwritten core value, like everybody should have it, just like you said. But hungry, humble, and smart. Hungry being that drive to want to work the system, right? The humble being somewhat giving or others first, and then smart being someone who uses intelligence to grow. But having those core values, aligning with the right people, is a very big part of our vision plan. Purpose, cause, passion, or your why, if you will. Simon Sinek has a book on Start With Why. I do love that book. I think it's a really good book. I still struggle with my why when I was reading that book. I also read Purpose Driven Life and Intentional Living by John Maxwell. And to be honest with you, I do love the book. I feel like Simon got it just a little bit backwards, a little bit. Start with why. I actually went a step further than that. And I had to start with the who I was doing it for, right? And the why kind of found itself for me, right? So if you're struggling today with like, man, I don't know the purpose, my cause, my passion, or my why in life is, and I help a lot of teams that struggle with that. I always tell people, take it one more step. Just ask who you're doing it for. Right. So start with why is not a wrong question. I just think it's the wrong first question. I actually think the right first question is the who, right? The who and the why are kind of your purpose, where the how and the what are kind of the niche. And so if you think of it in that regard, who and why, one of those two should give you your answer on your purpose, cause, passion. And so when I found my who, my why was there automatically. Next is the niche, understanding what niche we're in and what you're going to focus on, keep creating pure focus around that niche. Real estate investors are the only ones in the world that I find that I work with that think they can do like 9 different niches, you know? And just because it has the word real estate in it, they just assume it's all one niche. And it's funny to me because we lose focus when we do that. I mean, I use a story like I wouldn't go to my foot doctor just because he's a doctor. I wouldn't go to my foot doctor, and if he was like, "Hey, you got something wrong with your ticker, and we've got to open you up tomorrow and fix your heart," I'm not letting that foot doctor do that to me. I don't care if he's a doctor or not, right? Even if he studied being a heart doctor in college, if he's not practicing, if he's not focused on it, I'm just not letting him do it, right? So we got to be really careful when we start to chase too many squirrels in this business of real estate, and understanding that niche. We need a BHAG goal here. Big, hairy, audacious goal is what Jim Collins calls it in the book Good to Great. And we're looking for a BHAG goal, something 5 to 30 years. That is defines our 100%, like where we're trying to achieve in life. Now, one of the things I like to do is I like to tie my 5 to 30 year goals back to the purpose, cause, passion. Because why are we doing it, right? What's the purpose here? And so I want a measurement to that. It's not a SMART goal if it doesn't have a measurement. So I want to make sure my purpose, cause, passion has a measurable goal towards it. And so that's what I use the 5 to 30 year to do, has helped me achieve that purpose. So I told you earlier, my purpose in life is to do good work to support God's work. So my number 4, my 5 to 30-year goal is to give $2.6 million away to a ministry that I am part of. So that's my goal, and that's my goal by 2026. Number 5 for me is creating the right marketing avatar and the right uniques. One of the reasons why my son studies Story Brand is the fact that it makes the marketing message about the avatar, right? It doesn't make the message about us, and that's where we kind of get it wrong. But understanding who that avatar is and where they are and what drives them and what's their what are your uniques of why they would do business with you. Number 6.
The key to that is you're speaking the words of the avatar, not of the broad target that you're chasing. So if you're talking about probates, for instance, all your marketing is going to reference, expressing sympathy for their loss versus we want to buy your house because you live in a zip code. That's just the kind of to tie it back to real estate investing. Right.
Absolutely. 2-year focus is something right now. EOS does a 3-year picture, I believe is what it's called. And I, as a real estate investor, I think you don't want to go out more than 2 years right now. And so understanding what that 2-year focus looks like, and then your 1-year goal or 1-year strategy. So what your 1 year looks like in regards to your goals for this year in 2020. I have a book coming out, Dan, next year, and it's called The Year of a Clear Vision. So 2020, it's obviously a play on words on the word 2020. And it's coming out on March 20th, 2020. So February 20th, 2020. So 02/20/2020.
Wow.
And it's just a whole play on the year, the 2020 play.
I'm sure you've been waiting years to publish this book.
Well, I've been using a daddy joke for the last couple of years, telling everybody that their vision has to be perfect for 2020. My wife doesn't think it's as funny as I think it is, but
well, since your business name is Sharper Process, it's perfect.
Right. So number 8 here, we got quarterly goals, where we're going to be in the next 90 days. And listen, your 90 days, guys, is right now for 2020. What you have done is for 2019 is done, right? Like you've done everything you can do to make 2019 what it is. I mean, you can finish strong, obviously, but we have to start planning right now for 2020. And a part of that planning, one of the things I said yesterday, Dan, is I said, one of the goals you might need to have right now is what you're not going to do in 2020, right? Everybody always thinks about goals, and the 90-day goals is something they need to go do. And sometimes there may be a relationship you need to sever. Maybe there's a niche that you need to kill. Maybe there's marketing channels that aren't working for you anymore. Like, what are you not going to do in 2020 along with what you need to do? And so understand those two things. Number 9 here is a part of your vision plan. Doing a SWOT analysis of your business. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities for 2020? What are your threats? Now, I add another T here, Dan, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and trends. I think it's essential in real estate that you understand the trends of the business as well. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I like that.
So
brings me back 10, to the marketing school.
Yeah.
Business
right.
school.
Yep. So number 10 is issues. We all have them. The average business has about 6 new issues a day. And I'm not talking about the day-to-day issues. I'm talking about the big ones that are holding you back. Sometimes those issues are fear. Sometimes those issues are mindset. Sometimes those issues are not having enough people. What are the issues that are slowing you down today? And so this is a vision plan. And this is a very, very comprehensive plan. And this is not something that just entrepreneurs do. This is, in my years in corporate America, I was an executive with a Fortune 500 company for almost 17 years. This is a very similar business plan to even them. So, understanding what your vision is, getting this out of your head, getting it on paper is essential to growth. What we focus on expands. And if you're not creating focus around this, you're doing what a good old Jamaican friend of mine used to say when he said the word focus, right? He didn't say focus quite right. So he says, you need to focus, right? And if you're not focusing, you're definitely focusing. So, all right.
Take a screenshot of this, guys. This can be a good framework for your 2020 planning retreat, which I encourage you guys to do with your team.
Yeah, and there's a really good I have a daily planner I use is Michael Hyatt's full focus planner. Mm-hmm. And he has this big three in there. I have a philosophy that I do everything in threes. That's why I try to read 3 books a week. It's my philosophy called 3 to Thrive. And so everything I do is in threes. I set 3 daily goals, I set 3 weekly goals, and 3 quarterly goals that help me get to where I need to be. But I find that creating focus around 3 is really, really good for me. I have ADHD like most real estate visionaries. And, I can't just focus on one thing, but I think 3 is the one that it's the magic number for me. So if that helps anybody.
Love it.
Now, next, people. We talk about vision. Now we got to talk about people. The most important component to letting go, right? Like if we're talking about like not working in the business, we're going to work on it. If you're going to spend less time at the office, then you have to let go. And the most important component to that is the people component. So here, question again. Do you have 100% of the right people in your team, and are they sitting in the right seats? And before you say yes or no to that, you need to answer that question about you as well. Are you sitting in the right seats? One of the biggest mistakes I see real estate investors make, especially newbies and stuff, is they sit in the wrong seats. They get their business going, and their business literally gets held back because they're the wrong person, or they're the right person, but they're in the wrong seat in the business. So right people. How do we know if it's the right people? It's our core values. How do we know if we're in the right seat? Well, let's talk about that. So is your team rowing together? There's a story here that I won't hold you up on top, tell you right now, but the story behind making your team row together and the importance of rowing together. John Maxwell says, "He who thinketh he is leading and no one is following is only taking a walk." And and that's a lonely walk, man. Like I hated it when I was not doing this properly and not leading my people properly. Like it's a very lonely walk. You feel like you're very alone in business. So like you got to get the right people around us going on the right path. So first thing we have to do is to start with the company structure, company accountability. Every company has 3 major departments, right? And so, usually that's sales and marketing, operations and finance. And then in real estate, obviously sales and marketing will split where marketing, lead intake becomes its own. And then sales will kind of split into like acquisitions and dispositions. Operations will split up. It'll become, it'll become project management, property management, and transaction coordinating and office management. And then you got finance. And finance in a small business typically, houses like IT and HR and those kind of functions. Those typically fall under finance because people and equipment are 2 of the highest cost things for a business. So in a smaller business, we want finance managing those. Now, as you grow and get bigger, those come out and become departments within themselves as well. And we usually refer to them as shared resources. And most companies have a vice president, or an EOS calls it an integrator, or whatever you call it, it's fine. But then other companies will grow into having a president or a visionary. I put a dotted line there because not every business has a visionary. Okay. Some businesses don't have that person or that profile sitting in their business. And actually there's actually only like 1 visionary for every 3 integrators in the country. Now in real estate, it seems like it's backwards. We actually have like 3 visionaries for every 1 integrator. And that's typically because visionaries like risk and they see the ability to make money in real estate, where integrators don't care much for risk. And they typically stay away from risky businesses, and they consider real estate to be one of those. So that's the structure of what we're looking for here. We're looking for you to start with your company structure. You want to start with this basic template, you can. If not, you got to build that out. And then you got to list out what are the functions of each one of those seats. Like what are the top things each one of those seats to do, right? So first thing is, we're going to delegate to the right people. We need to figure out who you're going to delegate to, right? So you create that accountability chart. List the seats you want on your team that you can add to your goals. So you need acquisitions, you need dispositions. What do you need? You need to hire people based on our core values, the core values that you define. That determines if you have the right people in your company. Now, next is you got to determine if they're sitting in the right seats. So now that you know your seats, and say you have an acquisition seat available. Well, the way we would hire for that person is we would ask about their experience, right? What kind of experience do you have? Next, we would ask about their desire. Do they want to sit in that seat? The next thing we would ask about is what type of traits do they have to perform the job? Do they have the emotional capacity to perform that job? Now, these are 3 different areas that we should be measuring, along with core values. It's 4. Experience is something that can be taught. So if somebody doesn't have that, obviously that wouldn't eliminate somebody, but we would want to put a plan together and teach them. Traits, people can modify. They can do sometimes or adjust their behavior based on what they, whether or not they want to be successful in that seat. The one that I won't ever put somebody in a seat over is desire, the desire or the want. If somebody doesn't want to do it, then I'm not hiring them, right? I'm not transferring them to that seat. 2 things that are a deal killer for me. 1 is core values. Number 2 is the desire. Just not going to hire somebody if they don't have the desire to want to sit there or transfer them from one position to another. So right people, right seat is determined by core values. It's also determined by if they have experience, they want it, or they have the traits to perform the job. And that, again, a lot of this comes right from EOS and the book Traction there, right people, right seats. Also, you have that with Good to Great as well. He talks about the right people and the right boss. And so all these systems and tools kind of go back to Rockefeller in the early 1900s and the way we do business, So when you read Scaling Up, you read Traction, Make Big Happen, Good to Great, The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, or Is Your Business Sick by Gary Harper. Any of those books, I'll go shameless plug there. All those books go back to Rockefeller, right? I mean, we're all just kind of looking back at the way business has been run and teaching it, right? And so now once we have, sorry, go ahead.
Quick interruption for anyone who wants to see a sample org chart for a wholesaling and acquisitions company. I made this blog post called The Essential Wholesaling Team. Just go to investorfuse.com/team. I put a link in there. Really good resource just to kind of get your brain thinking about how can you, split your business up into departments that make sense based on your situation and how many people do you want to actually have in your chain of command. It's totally possible to set it up however you would like, whether you want to manage a lot of people or just manage one person who manages other people. There's so many different ways to structure it. Check that blog post out. Thanks.
And I think it's important to note that too. Like, people ask me all the time, they're like, dude, I mean, do I have to have an integrator? Can't I just manage all the people myself? And I tell people all the time, there's 2 ways to run a business. Okay. You can either be a leader or a dictator. And as soon as I say that, I get this look like, man, that's a derogatory way to look at it. And it's just not true. Leadership and dictatorship are both effective. Okay. And people get really shocked when they hear me say that. There's one major difference between leadership and dictatorship, okay? And everybody thinks the dictator is just that derogatory way of looking at business. But let's be honest, probably the majority of people that are running their business are running them like a dictatorship, okay? And so, they're both effective. The difference between leadership and dictatorship is one is scalable, okay? And that's the only difference, okay? You have to answer that question. Do I want to scale this business past me? If you want it to be more about the business than about you, then you have to take on a leadership mindset. If you don't, then hey, I'm not here to judge either way. You just have to decide which one's best for you. Now we use predictive index to help make sure that we have longevity. We don't like turnover. The average cost of turnover is a minimum of $3,500 per head minimum. And so we use psychometric data, which is predictive index, and along with predictive index algorithms to predict the long-term success or workplace performance to a 70% accuracy or more. And so utilizing predictive index when we help our teams helps them make sure they have the right people sat in the right seats. And what are we measuring? We're measuring drives, we're measuring needs and behaviors. We understand that if drive, we understand that it'll tell us the behavior that the person will perform at work. So we want to make sure that we have the right drives in the right seats. Now, what it doesn't measure is the intelligence of a person, the education, knowledge, skills, experience, interests, attitude and values, language literacy, physical and health. Those are the things that doesn't measure, and that's what we're interviewing for. But this is a big component of making sure that we have the right people in the right seats. And it measures the total person, right? So it looks at who they are as a person, who they're trying to be, and then obviously what's showing up. These 2 give birth to this profile. And so when I hire somebody, I want them to be the person they're more natural at. And so this is what we call, this would be an analyzer type profile. And this person right here would make a great project manager. right? Because they're independent, they're going to solve problems. They're a little bit reserved, so they're not going to fall in love with the contractors. They're still quick to connect to people because the urgency or drive is lower than the B. And on top of that, they're going to want to do it right. They got some preciseness about them. So again, they're going to solve problems. They're going to not fall in love with the contractor. They're going to push timelines, and they're going to make sure the project's done right. Now, the person they're trying to be is not somebody I want at all sitting in that seat because it's going to take them too long, and they're going to end up going over timeline. But even with these two profiles combined, they're still being the profile I need them to be in order to be a good project manager. This would be a good project manager, property manager, also a good integrator. These profile right here matches all three of those. And so these are people that I'm looking to put in the right seat based on the profile that they're showing me or the drive that they have, if you will. Does that make sense, Dan?
Yeah. Is there a certain type of person that is more likely to follow a process and work the system?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the D. This process is the D. So that's the preciseness or the process.
Okay. So you're looking for that, because we can talk about systems and processes all day, but if your team isn't bought in or has the personality type to follow them, I am an example of someone who doesn't have that personality type. Then you need to make sure you have people surrounded by you that do. And that's
absolutely.
That's what keeps the team rowing together.
Yeah. Now, this type of person, this type of profile is one that typically leans to be a little bit more of a dictator, right? Because they can see the vision, they can fix the problem, and then go do it themselves. Right? So, if you have that type of a profile, you just got to know that about yourself. So it's really important that we do know thyself, right? And that's why I always tell people it starts with you. You have to determine what seats you need to sit in and then hire around that. And that's what I want to talk about. Actually, we're going to get into that. So understanding the behavioral drives of people, their dominance or their problem-solving ability. High A's are people that like to solve problems. Low A's, it's not that they don't solve problems, they just like to collaborate more with other people. High B's are really extrovert. They're outgoing type people types. I'm a very high B, and so I'm the kind of guy that's going to get on an elevator, and I'm going to probably know your name before you get off the elevator, right? Where a low B loses energy around a lot of people, so they typically don't like to be around a lot of people. The high C here is somebody really patient. The low C pushes to get things done. I'm probably right here. I'm like one of the most impatient people you've ever met. My formality, this is how much I like process versus more, this also measures risk taking. So you understand somebody that likes process, likes rules, likes structure, they don't like risk. Okay. So they like process. So the higher this goes, the less risk they like. And that's why integrators, our industry is filled with a lot of low Ds because they're willing to take risks, but then they struggle with process. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we got the different behavioral types and what we're looking for in people. Now that allows us to stop guessing. We have the right people, core values. Do they have understanding of their job, the desire to do their job, and the capacity, and then knowing whether or not they have the right profile is essential as well. And I know a lot of people use DISC and other things like that. And you got to be really careful with this. This is just not as accurate. One of the reasons we use predictive index is because it's over 90% accurate. And so, and this doesn't reach those levels. So got to be really careful with utilizing programs that don't reach those levels of accuracy. You can get it really wrong. But having the right people in the right seats allows us to actually let go. Now, letting go, we have to delegate. If we're going to delegate properly, or if you're like most business owners, you don't like to delegate, or you feel like you're too busy, got too much on your plate, then you have to figure out how to get these things off your plate. You have to figure out how to delegate properly. And I want to just walk you through real quick how I do that and make sure that I'm delegating the right things. So first thing I start with is I figure out whether or not I'm over capacity. I figure out what my number of hours in a day I want to work. And I don't mind working. I like to work. I'll work between 6 and 10 hours a day, and that doesn't bother me. I like to do it. Some people like to work a little less than that. Whatever your number is, that's your 100%. How many hours in a day do you want to work? Okay. And I always tell people, if you come work for me, and I'm interviewing you, I'm going to always tell people that I want at least a half a day's worth of work out of you, right? 12 hours. That's what I want. So, because I'm expecting that. Now, I take and list out everything I do. I take that accountability chart, list out everything I do or everything I'm responsible for. Seems like a daunting task, but it really isn't. It's about 30 minutes to do this. And once I list out everything I do, then I determine, am I over 100%? So am I going to work 6 to 8 hours? And I take the next thing is how many things I do a day. And if those things take me more than the 6 to 8 hours, then I know I've reached 100% of capacity or more. And if I've determined that, then I go into this next activity. And now I take everything I've written down and I put them in these quadrants. If I don't like it or I'm not good at it, it goes in the right quadrant. If I like it, love it, good or great at it, it goes in my left quadrant. I find that the things that go in my right quadrant, they steal my energy. If I don't like it or I'm not good at it, it steals my energy. Things I like or good or great at, I feel gives me energy.
Love it.
Right? I love.
Hey, Gary, you're coming through a little choppy right now. Poor internet connection. Gary, there you go. You're kind of coming back. You're cutting in and out, Gary.
Okay, am I back now?
You're back now.
All right. So I'm going to delegate the things that I'm not good at or I don't like to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love splitting it up by just a matter of like, does this give you energy or not give us energy? It's just like, it's the simplest way to know if you're, in your zone or not.
Yeah. Right? And when I almost passed away in 2011, what was the doctor telling me? He said I had like 6 months worth of energy left. And energy became very important to me. It became very apparent to me that I have to protect my energy. Right. And so from that day on, I do not do tasks that steal my energy. Okay. I'm going to delete them or delegate them. I even go as far as my task list daily. I write the word END at the end of my task list daily. And if it energizes me, I do it. The N stands for neutral. And if I'm not sure if it energizes me or not, then I'll do it once and then decide which side it goes to. And the D stands for de-energize. And if it de-energizes me, I either delete it, I don't do it, or I delegate it. All right. So energy is extremely important to me, and managing that to make sure that I stay healthy is very, very important. So I don't know if that helps you guys.
Yeah.
Now, once I create that list, right, and I have the list from the delegate, then I am going to hire the employees in my life to do those things. Okay. And when I hire them, I want that list to bring them energy. I want them to love it, like it, good or great at it. So it brings them energy, and they do the things I don't like to do. Now, once I hire you, Dan, if I hire you, you said, yeah, I love what you have me do. I take that same list of things that I don't want to do anymore, and I put them in these three areas of approval. And so I have a hard time delegating. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm a recovering dictator. And so one of the things I do is I take that same list and I put things I never want you to do without talking to me first. So when you first start working for me, a lot of things are in that column. Okay. Now, over time, they start to move left. But then I put the rest of the stuff in the things I want you to do, then tell me how you did it. Next, things I want you to do and never tell me about it. So these three areas of approval are really crucial for me when I first start to hire people, because I need to build trust with you first before I'm going to delegate to you.
I like that.
All right. And so very simple form. It was actually born on a napkin in 2001. And so overnight, about a 90-day period, everything in this column starts to migrate to the left if I've built trust, if you've earned the right for me to trust you. Okay. And in 90 days, if it's not left side heavy, then we probably need to cut ties. Okay. Yep. Because if not, I'm going to control you, and it's not good for you or me. So it's just this is a little form hack that I have that I use, and you guys are welcome to screenshot that and create it and do it. It's something that I think every leader should do with every one of their employees, no matter what. I actually do this with my kids. I do this with my wife even, right? And my wife does it back to me. Hey, Gary, in our relationship, these are things. Hey, if you want to go do these things, go do them. I don't care. Like if you're going to do this, I want to know about it first though. Right. So like that's just a proper way to interact with somebody in a relationship, right? Is to have be on the same page with their expectations. So I do this in a lot of different areas. So what I surprisingly find is most people are afraid of looking wasteful, being judged. That's why they don't do this. They're afraid to give up control, reluctant to spend the money for help. Deep down, most people simply just don't want to let go. And so that's probably one of the biggest components to scaling properly is letting go properly.
Yep.
And so doing these things. Now, Dan, we're right at 1 o'clock. I don't know if you want me to keep going here. We've got 3 other areas.
No, you're on a roll. We're going to record this. You guys, if you want to stick around and ask questions, please stay on and join us because I feel like Gary's just getting started here. We won't go much past another 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I got some really good stuff I'll share with you guys regarding processes and stuff too, but I'll speed up pace a little bit. So when you delegate the grunt work, you get to concentrate on what you love to do, right? It allows you to free up your time to be more productive. It identifies your core excellence is what I call the area of like and good, and love and great. And then you delegate completely to free up your time to focus on what you love to do. I always tell people, they're like, hey man, I really like going on acquisitions appointments. And I kind of feel like everybody thinks I shouldn't do that. And I'm like, listen, you can do anything you want to in your business. It's your business. Whether it's healthy or not, it's a different story. And here's the measurement for healthy, guys. If you're doing it because your business has to have you do it, it's unhealthy. If you're doing it because you want to do it, it's not. So if your business has to have you do it, then it's unhealthy. If you're doing it just because you want to, then boy, do it all day. Like if you guys have acquisition people and you don't have to be that person, that's why I want you. But if you want to come in today and go on an appointment just because you want to, that's where we should be. That's called freedom, doing what you want. So whether you're doing what you want in your business or doing what you want on the beach, it's still doing what you want. Just don't have to do it.
Yep.
Okay. And the best part of using systems is building wealth, right? And building wealth to create a sustainable business and sustainable life. Now we'll get into processes. This is our sharper approach to business processes. We always start with documenting our core processes. Another reason we don't let go, even when we hire people, is we don't know what to give them to do. So we got to get our core processes out of our head and on paper. And I'm not talking about every process, standard operating procedure, all that crazy stuff. Like most standard operating procedures, 500-page documents set on a shelf and collect a lot of dust.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for, however, is you get the core processes, and we'll talk about core processes in a minute. But document them. We use process mapping. I use a software called Lucid Chart. It's free. I mean, it's not free. It's about $8 a month, and it's online, right? It's a web-based system, Lucid Chart. It's really great. That's what we use. But once we have the process maps and we define like how long each one of those processes should take, then we feed our scorecards. Everybody, Dan, everybody asks me this question all the time. They're like, hey, what are my KPIs? What should my KPIs be for my business? And I can give you a list of KPIs as a leader, but then people want to know what are my KPIs for each department. And the funny thing is like, I see people share numbers and share KPIs. And the crazy thing with that is every business is so different based on your processes. That's where your KPIs come from. Anytime there's rework or there's a delay or there's a question asked, that's an opportunity to track a metric. And that's where your scorecard comes from for your businesses. So like to borrow somebody else's KPIs for their acquisitions, or their dispositions, it's not always going to fit quite right because it's not your business. It's not your process. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I've done over 2,500 process maps in real estate, and I haven't done one that's exactly like somebody else's. Not one. So be careful, just taking somebody else's process and trying to implement it. You're completely a different person. You have a different culture, different environment, all that. You have to create the process that's right for your business. Once we have those processes, I like to measure productivity, and we'll save that for another day. And then having all that stuff feed in to my issues list that comes into my meetings that I'll have with the clients. I'll sit there and we'll review those KPIs. We'll review those processes and issues. That's our approach. So question here, are your 100% of your core processes documented and followed by all? Is everybody in your business following those core? And if not, we have to get them out of our head and on paper. I say a company without a process is like an explorer without a compass. Processes are the foundations of how we run our business. If you don't know them, there's no way you can be consistent or even have a sustaining business model without your processes documented. Gino Wickman even goes on to say from Traction, you will not get your company to the next level by keeping your processes in your head and winging it as you go. Right? It's just not going to happen. So why process mapping? It ensures the organization does this process the same way every time. That's sustainable. You improves your employee productivity. We get better when we do it the same way every time. It identifies steps that are not needed in the process. I heard a guy just this morning on a podcast talk about process mapping and how he does it and how he helps other people with process mapping. And it was good. I loved it. I love the fact that they're at least just doing it. But one thing that bothered me just a little bit, Dan, here is that you need to identify the steps that aren't needed. So a part of process mapping is eliminating the waste of a process. If you're not identifying the steps that are not needed or that are wasteful, and all you're doing is documenting the inefficiencies, you will still have an inefficient process. So it's not enough just to get them out of your head. You actually need to go through and eliminate the steps that aren't needed. It removes the steps created by the thinking. We've always done it that way. I love hearing an employee say that. Well, we've always done it that way. What does that give me? It gives me an opportunity to improve. Next, it helps create checklists for each department. Okay. It also helps identify where you can apply technology, right? And streamline. One of the things I love about your system is if I process map, for you, if somebody process maps their system and then they gave it to you, you can customize, their system for them if they really wanted it that way, right? Once they have a process map. And that's what I love about Podio, and I love what you guys do. Actually, I don't think you guys are using the platform of Podio anymore, but I mean, you still have the same technology that utilizes these tasks, if you will. So it allows you to work on the business, not in the business, creating a self-sustaining business model. I believe in the 20-80 rule here when documenting processes. I don't feel like you have to document everything. You just have to document the core. By documenting your core main processes gives us peace of mind that knowing that everything is done the way you want it done. Okay. And so we want to get that out of our head. Now, core processes, what are they? Well, they're your marketing for leads process. They're your vetting the lead process. You're acquiring the property process, right? Acquiring the property is like appointment set to contract signed. Your wholesale process, contract signed to contract signed. Fix and flip. Your buy and hold process, if you're a buy and hold guy, or a wrap guy, something like that. Your marketing for sale process. What is that? Your closing process A to B, and your closing process B to C. So those are your core processes. We get just those core processes out of our head and on paper, and then improved. Boy, we could go along. That's 80% of what we do right there, right? So getting those processes out of our head on paper are essential. Now, this is what a process map looks like. When we're done with this, is a fix and flip process map. And you can see here we have the swim lanes. These swim lanes represent each department. And these are just the high level tasks that each person's responsible for doing in this process. This is one of the biggest maps that we do is a fix and flip map. When said and done, this is about 282 steps in total in the process for fix and flip, which is probably why so many people lose money in fix and flip because they don't have the process out of their head, right?
Yep.
Once we get those process maps done, we get them up on the walls. We want people to see them. We want people to follow them. We want people to make sure that they're adhering to the rules of them. Next is the data part. I just skip over the slide there. That's kind of irrelevant. Yeah.
Can I stop you on that because you probably just blew everybody's minds.
Okay.
And they're probably thinking to themselves, shit, I got a lot of processes to write out. I just want to mention some strategies that you can use to kind of make it easier. One, you get the person that's doing the task to write the process.
Absolutely, buddy. That's good.
It doesn't need to be a fancy formal thing. It can be just a video of them talking about it. You can get a VA to transcribe it and make it into step-by-steps later. But just as long as you're just getting it out of your head, it doesn't matter what form it takes. Okay.
Yeah.
We use videos. We use Loom all the time to create these documentations. And then our in-house sort of VA team will go and actually turn it into a nice step-by-step process. And then we put it into our company wiki. But this all doesn't need to be done by you. You want to make sure that your team creates the process that they're doing. Another key point is you just document what you're currently doing. This is something that John said yesterday that kind of just like blew my mind because people try to write out like the perfect, what they really want it to be like. Don't start with that. Start with what you're currently doing the way that you're currently generating leads, and then go from there. Because when you externalize that and you put it on to paper in the form of a flow chart that Gary just showed you, that's when you're going to see, do we really need to be doing this one step? Maybe we can move that over here or take it out. Or how could we, compress this down? Like, you can't really get to that until you get down what you currently have, and then you improve it from there. So that's all I just wanted to say. I know it seems like a lot, but over time, if you've embedded the culture of systems and processes and working the system in your business, then you'll be able to have epic flow charts like that.
Yeah, and guys, I was part of a team. My brother-in-law, I had in Northwest Indiana. We had over 30 employees, bought and sold in 5 states. And listen, we had over 52 process maps, but we did one a week. I call it Foundational Fridays. Okay, that's what it's called in my system. Foundational Fridays, where you take 1 hour a week and you document the process. Okay, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Before you know it, you'll have them all caught up. You just got to start. It's almost, you just got to start somewhere. Second thing I'll tell you is we call that the as is map and the should be map. So you create the as is, the way it is today, and then you should be is after you've eliminated waste. I have a whole because I'm Six Sigma, I have a whole presentation that goes really deep into that. Maybe could do that at some point, Dan, and go really deep into that and how they can do this, eliminate the waste and everything. The other thing too is, Dan's absolutely right. 93% of the people learn by video anyway. So when a lot of the times what I do is when I create a process, I record it and then I send it to Temi, T-E-M-I, and for 10 cents a minute, it transcribes it. Okay. Then I'll send it to one of my office people. I can send it to a VA and have them create the as is map. And that's a very simple way to do it. You don't have to do this. You can just grab your phone and record it, send it to Temi, and then have it transcribed and then have a VA do that. Now, what's important, and this is a part that I see a lot of people miss, is that improvement steps. Taking the as is and taking it to a should be map, improving the process. And that's a critical part because, and I can tell you a story right now where I saved a client over $1 million because of steps, just because we've always done it that way thinking, and a step in a process that literally was derailing the whole process and costing a lot of money to a Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that we and then the other thing too is don't try to spend a lot of money on process maps and creating and improving your processes. I'll tell you a real quick story, Dan. And this is one of the ones another book I have is called There's a Process in the Process. And in that book, it talks about this company that had a conveyor belt. And they were the boxes that were on the conveyor belt would be stuffed with items, we call them widgets. And as they went through the conveyor belt, if the widget didn't get stuffed in the box, it would get shipped and sent out, an empty box, right? So obviously costing the company a lot of money. So they hired us to come in, and we looked at the business, and we helped them process map it and show them where the defects were. And then they hired another company to come in that was a technology company to improve it, right? Which was really nice, and it fixed the problem. But they spent a lot of money with this technology company to improve it by putting this alarm system in. So if the box didn't weigh a certain amount, it would have set off an alarm. You follow me so far? Mm-hmm. And guess what happened? It worked. The boxes went down. They set on the system. They set off an alarm, and the employees had to stop and pull the box. And management was very happy. Well, a couple of weeks went by, and after a couple of weeks, they stopped hearing the alarm. And you know what happened with the management? It's like, what's going on? Is the system broke? All this money, blah, blah, blah. They go over to the foreman and they go, listen, what's going on? Did we fix something? Is the system broke? Why haven't we heard the alarm? And then they realized, they looked up and they saw this big, huge industry fan up against the conveyor belt. And he says, no, we were just really sick of hearing the alarm. So we took a fan and it blows all the boxes off the conveyor belt if they don't have anything in them. Right. and they had spent a lot of money on this whole system when all they needed was a fan. And if they would have taken the time, to really research it and do it the right way, obviously they could have saved a little bit of money. But I just tell that story all the time because it's comical to me. We can be innovative, and we ought to be innovative. We ought to listen to our employees and not spend a lot of money on improving processes. But we have to take time to review them. So that's why Foundational Fridays, 1 hour a week, take time, work on the foundations of your business. Doesn't have to be an overwhelming thing. Next is data. So data reports, also called scorecards, dashboards, flash reports, metrics. pulse reports, all these different words. People call them all these different things. The fact of the matter is you need to know about 5 to 15 numbers in your business that gives you an absolute pulse on your business, okay? It also should give you the ability to predict where the business is going. And I love the statement, when it gets measured, it gets done. So obviously numbers give us a chance to measure what's going on. So numbers are worthless if you don't know what they mean. So what numbers should we be tracking, and how should we be tracking them? I use a stoplight report. The stoplight report allows me to take my KPIs. It allows me to put what department I'm tracking, the measurable, like lead received, what my goal range is, 8 to 10 a week or a day, whatever it is. And then what's my actual? And then my actual triggers a stoplight report. And a stoplight report allows me to manage by walking around. If I see reds, obviously I've got to go straight to the point. If I see yellows, then I'm keeping it on my radar. If I see green, I know that we're on the right path, right? And so a stoplight report, very simple report, allows me to measure those metrics. The next question, though, is what should we be measuring? Guys, this is the top KPIs that I find in real estate that guys want to have. They want to have these numbers at their fingertips. And what are we talking about? Like, is this the only thing we should be measuring? Absolutely not. We should be measuring as much information as we can measure in real estate. But I want this like on my dashboard. I want this on, if I'm driving a car, I need these metrics in front of me most of the time, right? If I'm running my real estate business, this is what I need to see. And so hopefully you guys take note of these, and maybe one or two of them would be a benefit for you to be tracking. But obviously one of the biggest ones is the acquisitions department. I want to know these metrics. I want to know my conversions. I want to know my contracts. I want to know my offers, how many appointments attended versus appointments set, and how many leads, right? I want to know what my cost per lead is, my cost per contract is. Some people measure their cost per closing, and that's not a bad one to measure. And what is that? That's the marketing dollars spent to get there, right? So knowing these metrics are really important. Tracking them and then keeping them, and holding them accountable is also very important.
And anybody using InvestorFuse, all of those KPIs for marketing and acquisitions are within the process of InvestorFuse. So on your dashboards, all of those numbers exist as long as you're completing your actions. You just got to make sure you put your marketing cost into the campaign section, and then all these KPIs show up for you every single day to look at and compare against last month. So it's crucial to automate as much of this as possible, but you want to be looking at it in order to determine what's going up or down.
Yeah. And you said a very key word there, guys, automate. Before you even hire somebody, you ought to find out what you can automate first. Like automate your business first. The most expensive cost of a business is labor. And people will throw labor at all the time when they could automate and make things better just through automation. So like automate first, then go towards hiring the right people. So KPIs. Next is communication. So once we have the right people in our lives, we have people helping us in business, you got to communicate properly. You got to communicate. I was once asked a question. I was asked, if you were an assassinator of businesses, what would you do to destroy them? And I was like, what a crazy question. And the question that was answered very simply, though, I would kill the lines of communication. Right. And there's a lot of things that I look to both from a biblical and a business perspective that show that when we don't communicate properly, then we shut things down, right? Things don't work right when the communication's not there. So what's a proper meeting structure? Well, I like to have a daily huddle. It's 5 minutes that I take with all my staff. I ask one good news. I don't ask for everybody to share in good news, just one. I usually like to hear public praise. I don't publicly praise. I don't think a leadership praise openly. I think I allow these meetings for people to praise each other. Then I want an update on daily events. What's going on today that you may need help with? Now, another thing I'm asking for in a daily update is I'm asking for everybody's number. I assign a number to every single person in our business. And so for acquisitions, I would say, how many appointments do you have today? Dispositions, how many contracts do you have signed yesterday? Closings, were there any closings that we're having today that might have issues that I need to know about? So forth and so on. Everybody in my business has to have a number that I walk up to you, your number, and I just say, what's your number? And people can share their number with me. And that way it tells me whether or not I need to spend time with them that day. Okay. Next type of meeting structure is your weekly leadership team meeting. Again, I start with good news. I want to walk through any issues that either the voice of the employee or the voice of the customer, and that's what VOE and VOC stand for. If there was any issues with a voice from the employee or a voice from the customer, that's sharing issues with me, I want to know what they are. I also want to review my data, my KPIs, and my rocks, my 90-day goals, if you will. I want to review those in this meeting, make sure we're on target. And then I want to resolve issues. The only reason we should be even having the weekly leadership team meeting is to solve issues. So this is a structure that I want to have. Now, EOS has a really great level 10 meeting. It's probably one of the best I've ever seen. So if anybody's interested in a great structure that encompasses these 4 bullets, that is a great meeting structure to implement in your business.
Yep. We do that exact same layout, by the way.
Awesome.
Great.
Next is town hall meetings, right? I want a culture meeting. One of the things that starts to get missed in a company as we build these systems, we build these processes, and you start to step out of the day-to-day, guess what goes with you? Your culture, what you brought, your energy. And so the town hall meeting gives an infusion back into the business of that said culture. So it's 30 minutes. I like to have it at least, depending on your size of your team, at least once a month. If your team's up in the 20, 30 employees or more, you need to have it once a week. But good news, again, public praise. I like for people to praise each other. I use 10 minutes of training on whatever topic you want. And then last is that State of the Union, where we're at, where we're going. Essentially, I want you reading your vision plan that I gave to you. I want you to keep that vision plan alive. And that's where you do it. You do it right there in the town hall meeting. The next meeting structure is a quarterly and annual planning sessions. These are very strategic meetings about goal review, team health, making sure you're working on. If you have more than 5 employees in your company, you have a health component to your company that needs to be addressed regularly. Vision planning, again, a vision plan I gave you, making sure that's reset every quarter to every annual. And then leadership training, making sure that we're training our leaders. Great leaders lead other leaders. So you have to train on an ongoing basis of how to lead, right? And so this is a different meeting structure. Never, ever underestimate the power of a great meeting. Make sure you guys are having great meetings in your organization. A good meeting prevents bottlenecks, train wrecks. It stops the left hand from not knowing what the right hand's doing. It allows you to review your goals and give accountability to your vision. It allows you to identify issues that can be solved for good that don't come back and continue to create havoc in the business. Now, I'm going to skip over this just for a second. The Got a Minute meeting, we can talk about it some other time, but you need to ask this question. Does your leadership team meet weekly to work on the business? And if you don't have a leadership team or maybe you don't have a lot of people on your team, then you need to have somebody you're meeting with on a weekly basis. One of the things we have in our business, Dan, is we have meeting moderators that run these meetings and help the leaders hold the business accountable, right? Your system, your weekly system should be a system for helping you identify and solving problems permanently for them to go away. Now, we utilize an issue tracking system. We use just this very basic form that identifies the area, the date the problem was created, and when we have a completion on it, when it was completed, the description of the issue, and what action items were going to be taken and who's going to do it to take care of the problem. And so we utilize this and track this on a weekly basis in our leadership team meetings. So just another question, do you meet with your leadership team quarterly and annual to reset your priorities? Again, all these questions should be triggering action, right? Should be triggering what you need to do in your business to have a sustainable business model that grows past you. So what will all this do for you? I'm wrapping it up now, Dan. But business systems will allow you to and help you scale properly. It'll bring out the best in employees. It reduces employee stress plus your stress. And it allows you to stop micromanaging people, okay? It allows you to reduce employee turnover. It also helps you dial in your processes. It creates the right culture for your business. It creates a vision for people to follow. And it gets your team all on the same page, pulling in the same direction. So these areas are really, really important. So now what? What could you do? Well, you can keep doing nothing. You can keep being the single point of failure in your own business, which is also the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? I heard somebody say something the other day that was really, really genius. He says, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? But it's an option. You can still keep doing nothing. You can keep doing what you're doing today. Nothing leads to complacency, which is the enemy of success. Frustrated staff, lack of vision or focus, struggling along, robbing customers and employees of your growth, never really reaching your potential. Like I said earlier, you stay in the single point of failure in your own business. That's obviously not what any of us want, or you wouldn't be on this call today. So what should you do? I would employ every one of you guys to start building wealth using systems, using people, using processes, using automation, tapping into to Dan here and his system and what he has to offer. And I just want to show this quick model here. This is that Robert Kiyosaki model. You know, if we're employees, we have a job. We're exchanging time for money. If you're on the call today and you don't have a system, you own a job. You're self-employed. So you're still exchanging time for money. The reason Sharper was born was to take people from this quadrant to the wealth building quadrant, where people use systems, time, other people's time, and systems to produce income, to produce money. And then the best thing about this, guys, is once you produce enough wealth, you can become that true investor, right? I know we all call ourselves investors, but we're not. We're business owners. And we don't become that true investor until our money is making money, until our money has a job. And once we do that, guys, you really start to create freedom. See, real wealth isn't just about money. It's about building systems that allow you to scale a business while letting go without losing control. When you get the freedom, to get the freedom, and to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want to do it with, you have to start exchanging time or money for time. And the only way you start exchanging money for time is by having enough money to generate more money. And the only way you're going to get enough money, build wealth, is by having systems and processes that are scalable to get you to that level. And with that said, feel a little overwhelmed?
Yes.
Right? So a lot of this obviously is a lot, right? And we're throwing a lot out at you, and I anticipated like you would feel this way. Everybody does. It's not about that. Let me just say this one last thing. What I'm teaching you today, whether or not, if you hired us to come in and help your business, it's not an event. It's a journey. To get here, to get where I want you to be, takes anywhere from 12 to 24 months. So to think that you're going to do it all and just watching a webinar, it's just not possible. It just takes a little bit of time of plucking, just one step after the next, right? And getting it done. So I won't put this up there. That's old. But, Dan, I wanted to thank you for your time and thank your group for allowing me to be on this. I don't know. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. And if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to answer.
Could you put your contact information back up there, actually, in case someone wants to have a more in-depth discussion with you about their business?
Sure. There it is.
gharper@sharperprocess.com. Awesome. What do you guys think? Do you believe that systems are necessary for you to build wealth in your business? I'd love to hear if you guys got any value out of this. This was some really important stuff. I believe that everybody has the same amount of time in any given day, 24 hours. The amount that you can get out of that time is directly correlated to the systems that you build that run the show without your presence. And I'm obsessed with that concept. You can run companies as big as Amazon.com with systems, or companies that are smaller, one person to 10 people just flipping houses every day. If Amazon can do it and, manage hundreds of thousands of employees and worldwide delivery of packages, then you guys can take the time and spend this time to really map out the operations of your wholesaling business or your rehab business or your fix and flip or your rental, because it will set you free. I promise you, it is the number one reason why we've been able to scale InvestorFuse and to serve, over 2,500 users of the system, plus manage the community, plus manage our lives and work on technology. It's essential to adapt this mindset. And remember, when you have really good systems, you don't need to manage the people. You manage the process, and the process will guide your team to deliver the product that you're selling, in this case, houses. So that's kind of why we made InvestorFuse sort of step-by-step with 2.0. It's basically you just work the system, right? You just do the action steps as they're dished out to you. Everything else happens automatically. This is it's a SOP that's built into the software. That's kind of what I wanted to, the vision for the product. And this was great. Really appreciate your wisdom and your sharing your story, Gary. And I think people got a lot of value out of this. Karen says she's a process engineer. This is right up her alley. And these are really all the tools that you need to leverage yourself and your team to get more out of your business. So
That's
this was
awesome,
awesome.
Karen. That's really great. I love hearing that. I appreciate it. And guys, again, I hope you guys realize that 100% trying to just bring value, you guys, today. Nobody's trying to sell you on anything here. We're just trying to help. I mean, that's our mission in life, is to help other people get the most out of their business. Obviously, if you're wanting to work with us in any way, there's avenues for that, but I'm not looking to do that today or push anybody towards that. Dan, I appreciate your friendship. I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can work together and do different things together. But, your community is great. And if you ever need anything, if we want to dial into any one of these areas, each one of these areas really honestly deserve a good hour or two of it. Just dial in talking about those. So if anybody in your community needs that, or if we need to get any deeper into anything, obviously we'll do that with you. So we're here for you.
Let's definitely plan on doing that. I want to have more of these systems and process discussions, because that is the 80-20 of being able to help entrepreneurs. We can't help you close the deal and shake the seller's hand for you, but we can help you create the systems that will allow you to do it repeatedly.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that, make sure to hit Gary up if you have any questions for him or you need his help directly. He does this all day and he's one of the best in the business. So make sure to do that. And everybody else, have an amazing rest of your week. Look out for a very big announcement coming from Investor Fuse very soon related to the product. We're making we're pretty much done progress with the new system. So we're going to be reaching out to everybody individually to talk about migrating, if you're currently using 2.0, if you want to get off Podio, migrating to the new system. This is for existing customers only. So exciting times. It's all about team plus automation to give you time freedom. This is why we brought Gary on. Thanks again, guys. Have a great rest of your day. See you, Gary.